Welcome to the Discovery Doc podcast, where we advocate for optimal wellness and reducing everyday toxic loads, no matter where life takes you. I'm Dr. Cece, doctor in nursing practice, self-proclaimed toxin tamer, and a crunchy mama.
I'm Anna Kate, a medical mystery overachiever and your discovery liaison. Join us on this exciting journey as we explore the world of holistic health, cutting-edge research, and practical solutions for a healthier life. Together, we'll navigate through the complexities of wellness, sharing valuable insights and expert advice.
Tune in to the Discovery Doc podcast. Get ready to be inspired, empowered, and discover a whole new way of looking at your health.
Welcome back to the Discovery Doc podcast. I'm here with your host,
Dr. Cece, functional medicine nurse practitioner, self-proclaimed toxin tamer, and crunchy mama, and our co-host.
I'm Anna Kate, your medical mystery overachiever and discovery liaison, and we are back with another mini-sode. So we're going to talk about a topic for the next 15, 20 minutes.
Diving in. So again, some of these topics came from you guys when I asked to put a little shout out on my social media to say, hey, what do you guys want to talk about? And one topic is, how can social media be a benefit and be a toxic place to those who are suffering from a chronic illness? And this is something that is near and dear to my patient population, because I have some patients who really benefit from the communities that social media can provide. And then I have some patients who I have to be the person to stop them from going on social media because of what it's doing. And even if we back up, I think that social media in general can be such an educational tool, but it can also be a very destructive tool. And I don't find in the chronic illness world, many people spend the time on putting the positives of their journey or the healing aspects of the journey versus putting the negative. And it's not... it's their real life experiences and what they're going through. But if I am chronically ill and I'm constantly reading about other people who are chronically ill, who are going through the same thing I am, there is a sense of companionship there.
Right.
That's like, oh, I connect with this person.
Misery loves company.
Yes. And I connect with this person. And maybe I feel like in my own life, with some of us who have struggled with chronic Lyme or whatever, where you can't see it, when nobody else can see it in your personal life, it is really nice to have people who do understand the depths of how you feel when outwardly you don't, quote, look sick. And so I do understand that part, but then it can spiral very, very, very quickly.
Yes.
Into becoming those symptoms, into becoming that illness, into this is now my identity and part of me. And that is where I see it becoming toxic for patients, is because if it now has become part of who I am so just deep, then it can prolong healing. And I have so much more to say, but I'm going to turn the tables a little bit. Because for you, someone who still deals with chronic illness, have you gone in and out of support online, not in person, right? But these social media or online, quote, support communities, or were you ever put in a place where you felt like you had to reach out through social media to connect to somebody, to have somebody understand what you were going through? And did it serve you a purpose? Or did you not feel like that was necessary for you?
Kind of, sort of both, because it really is when you're in those kind of dark, depressive states within chronic illness, it's really easy to get into those groups and to find other people that are going through a similar thing. So you feel like you are seen, but it's not the best place to be seen. So I've always said that I have a chronic illness. It's part of my story, but it's not who I am. So I am optimistically positive throughout everything, even in my darkest places. So that's one thing that makes me different, is that I can, I can get into those groups and it becomes a little too negative and I feel sick reading it and getting
Mm-hmm.
into trying to carry that all. And then there was also a point where I found a solution, which we will talk about in another mini-sode. And then going in and trying to help others and getting almost rejected of,
Yes.
oh, it's not a real thing or it doesn't work. And I'm like, well, the labs don't lie. I feel different. I've known that it has worked for me and it's been a benefit because where traditional approaches didn't work, this actually worked for me. So going in and trying to be that beacon and voice, that was hard to do because I got pushback of,
Mm-hmm.
oh, well, no, that's not really real. Okay, so you're telling me that my illness isn't really real, and then my solution to my illness isn't really real either, but I'm the one that's benefited or experienced both sides of it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my story with that. And on the note of social media and online community, that's something that I want to have a safe place within
Yes.
our Discovery Doc community that we're there for support and we're there for, hey, you are not alone, but we're not going to go down the negative rabbit holes
Mm-hmm.
because it doesn't help anybody. You can vent, you can say the thing, but then we take it and say, okay, what's our positive step forward?
Right.
So that will be kind of laying the ground rules for when we're in that community because we want to be the safe place for you to
Mm-hmm.
ask the questions and for you to voice your frustrations because it is very frustrating when you have all this happening to you. You're not getting answers from your doctors. You're feeling miserable. You're going to work. And for the longest time, as long as I sat down and I was fine, but as soon as I got up to walk, I walked like I was 90 because
Mm-hmm.
everything hurt. So I didn't look sick sitting down, but as soon as I went to move, and it's like, oh, well, you're faking it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, I'm doing something different than I was 5 minutes ago because I was sitting down and not moving. Like,
Right.
so it's that kind of, um, being in that space of, I don't know what's happening to my body and I can't put it into words and explain it.
Yeah. And I think something you said in there that I see a lot as a practitioner is, and Heidi and I, my nurse and I were just talking about this like 2 days ago. And I think once you get in those groups of people who have similar chronic illness going on, some people in there truly want to get better.
Mm-hmm.
Some people in there don't want to get better. And that is a very personal, unique journey that they are going through that is extremely just multifaceted. And as to reasons why that could be, that I don't necessarily think we need to go into, but there aren't a lot of people in those groups who come back with a positive story and a solution and are received well.
Right.
And so then by default, that person who now feels better and who's making progress in their journey, they leave that group.
Yep.
And so now what's left are all the people talking poorly about maybe a treatment that you did mention.
Mm-hmm.
And then I get those. I get those patients who say, well, I read in this group that this blah, 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 blah. And Heidi and I were just talking about this, how it's because people with success stories don't stay in there because they're not received well
Mm-hmm.
by a large portion of the community that's in that group as well. And so you're not seeing those benefits. You're not
Right.
seeing the people who certain things have worked for. Now, with that said, I do think that's a double-edged sword as well, because sometimes when we get into these social media groups or on social media, there's so much out there.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much out there. There are so many healing modalities and things to do and things to try. And that is not a healthy place to be in either, because then it puts the person who's chronically ill in a situation where it's like, okay, well, I read that I could do infrared sauna and red light therapy and hyperbaric chamber and these IVs and then this treatment, and then go over
Mm-hmm.
here and see this doctor in New York City and do this regimen for this, and then go down here to Mexico and do this. And that is a toxic place to be in as well. That it's not, it's almost sensory overload.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a completely different kind of quote toxic layer to sometimes to those communities versus the emotions behind it and the feelings behind it.
Right.
And I find that sometimes it will prevent patients from moving forward.
Yeah.
And keep them stagnant and keep them fearful rather than or just optimistic.
Right.
And so Yeah.
It is a very tricky place because you're on the chronically ill patient side, you're looking for answers and you're searching. So there's this thing, there's a timeline. So you have this mystery illness and you're going and you're seeking out answers and you're trying to find things. So you join these groups to figure out what others are doing, and then navigating on your own journey and advocating for yourself and finding a doctor, which is very similar to my story. And I went down a path that didn't really help me. It might have done more damage. It was just a traditional way to do things. And then I found actually, and we talked about this in another episode, that my primary care girl doctor said, "Hey, have you heard about this? Go." Like she said, this could be a solution for you. Explore it more. She's like, I
Mm-hmm.
understand, from what I understand, it will work very well for Borrelia burgdorferi. And so go explore it for yourself. And I said, I didn't know. If I had known this when I first got Lyme, it would have been we would be having a
Yeah.
completely different story. And I may
Yeah.
not be here having gone through the journey that I've gone through to be able to have the conversations that I can have now, which I would
Right.
not have been able to have. So
Right.
there's on that timeline, and then you get healthier, and then you kind of leave everything behind. So
Mm-hmm.
because you've been in it for so long, you just want to wash your hands of it and just kind of walk away. So if you're having success stories, I do advocate for you to go and advocate for others and just be that support, even
Yeah.
if it's you find that person that has an optimistic viewpoint and wants to get better and wants to get back to that positivity. Reach out to them and say, "Hey, you're not alone. I've been through what you've been through." We don't have to talk in the group, but if you want
Mm-hmm.
support, if you want an ear, actually, shout out to Brittany. If you're listening to this, I met her in the aisle at Walmart getting Epsom salts.
Oh,
So she was looking, she was like, "Hey, do you recommend one?" I said, "Well, they all do different magnesiums do different things, but are you buying for you or someone else?" She's like, "I'm buying for me." She's like, "I have Lyme disease." I said, "Can I give you a hug?" I mean, she's like this
aw.
big. I mean, she's teeny
Yeah.
tiny. I said, "I have Lyme too." I said, "Hey, go watch us on YouTube at the Discovery Doc." And I said, "We talk about all the things. Please reach out if you have
Mm-hmm.
questions. We want to be that support." And my mom walked up and she was like, "What do y'all do it?" I said, "Yeah,
So cool.
I made a friend because we have chronic illness."
Yeah.
So she has that positive outlook, which I think is so important because she wants to get better.
Yeah.
She's got a little girl. So she wants to do the things, but without the support of, "Hey, it is okay to have a bad day and to have a meltdown and to have the world really falls apart still." For me, it really does. There are days when I'm just like, the swelling is weird in different places, and
Mm-hmm.
some days I just I can't do it anymore on that day. So go back to sleep, rest, reset, do the things, and then get back up the next day and have these conversations.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to social media specifically, that that day is what is presented on social media
Yep.
because that day is where you feel like you need the most support. So that day is what's represented. People go in and say, which is valid, and it is absolutely valid. But then it's also equally as important to share the better days and the good days and what
Mm-hmm.
did that look like,
Right.
and as part of the healing journey, okay, what have I done that has made me feel better? And acknowledging those. And I think that a bigger part, a bigger issue with social media is that people have being chronically ill has kind of been glorified.
Yeah.
And it has brought an amazing awareness to certain illnesses, which is very positive. But it has taken a person who in everyday life may we might not know that they're chronically ill by looking at them, right? But then on social media, we see their social media profile and their handle, their literal username
Mm-hmm.
is chronically ill something. And then
Right.
there's their first name. And it has morphed into now this social media identity
Mm-hmm.
that we are chronically ill, and that has gained traction and gained followers. And again, it's really positive. It can be very positive in the sense that, okay, like someone's going through what I'm going through, like
Yeah.
that's so powerful. I didn't have that. I did not have that at all, and I can
Mm-mm.
totally understand how powerful that is. But now it almost becomes like a fad where like this person is glorified for being chronically ill, but only sharing the negative
Right.
kind of aspects to it and not being that source of inspiration or just wanting to stay in that for the glorification of it.
Right.
And that's really, really tough to navigate. And it's tough as a practitioner to then come around and navigate when people put so much time and energy into those influencers almost
Right.
who are chronically ill. It makes things very complicated. It can be so good. It can be so good,
Yeah.
but it can also be very, very, very toxic.
Yeah. So if you are chronically ill and you're going and connecting, be aware of where you are at emotionally. So if you're looking for just, hey, is anybody else on the planet going through what I'm going through? Because I feel really alone in this. And you will feel that a lot. You are not alone, but it's very, especially if your family doesn't understand or, everybody's got remedies in your personal life of, hey, just do this or you'll feel better if you do this. And it's like, well, you don't really understand the problem that I'm having. So while, yes, that would be beneficial, I really can't do that. My body doesn't respond that way. And if I do that, my body's going to respond this way. And just, so one, be kind to yourself. Give yourself space and time if you need it. And two, when you get on those groups and you're looking for answers, be very cautious with your time. And if it starts being, you start getting into that negative mindset because everybody's really complaining and you will see it on the feeds that they have this complaint, and then people are like, okay, well, these are some suggestions or things that you can do, and they're like, no, that doesn't work for me, or I'm not going to do that, or like, hey, drink water. No, I only drink soda. Like, I can't drink water. It's okay. So do the basic things that you can do, but really just be mindful. I know you're looking to go to connect to make sure that you're not alone. We're telling you you're not alone. If you need to connect with us in our community. But set a boundary for yourself, because it's really easy to go down that dark hole and it's very hard to get out of, because we know you discover that's not who you are. You want to get a hold of this and make progress. And I promise you, as chronically ill, we don't want to feel this way.
Yeah.
If I could go back to before I was sick and have that energy and have that moxie that I had for life then, sign me up for that. I don't want to be this way. I don't want my hands to be so swollen that I can't open things for myself. It's very frustrating because I have to ask for help.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to ask for help to do simple things. It's just, but it's okay for me to ask. I'm at a place that it's okay for me to ask, and it's okay for you to ask too. So just don't go down the dark rabbit hole of social media. Get into a place
Set boundaries.
that's positive. Have a group of friends that, even if you find them in these groups of, hey, I need a place to vent, for someone that understands, but I want you to help hold me accountable to move forward in a positive direction.
Right. Look for sources of inspiration in that moment. Like you said, misery loves company. And sometimes it feels good to understand that other people are going through what you're going through. But you always want to keep your mindset moving forward as to, okay, how can I keep progressing and growing as a human? Not necessarily every single day focusing on, okay, what can I do to heal, to get better, but how can I just progress as a human and better myself as a human? So be very choosy with your community, very choosy with who you follow on social media, who you are logging on and scrolling through and having that influx in your brain, who is filling that, and the content and the things that you're listening to that directly impacts your mood, your attitude, your outlook on life. So be very choosy that it's not constant negativity and something that fuels you to feel good, to give you a source of energy and excitement. And yes, also a source of, hey, I'm not alone here. So just pick and choose, manage your time, be cautious and conscientious of how much time you're spending reading certain negative things, and do know that there are people out there who are going through what you're going through or have been through what you're going through and can be a more positive source of connection for you than some of these other.
And if you can't find the positive, be the positive. because
Exactly. Create your own.
somebody's looking for you to be that positive hope
Yeah.
and encouragement. And it's out. If it's out there, but if it's not out there for you, it's you.
Yes. 100%. Drop the mic.
Yeah. So let us know in the comments, kind of your positive outlook and your positive take on things, that if you've been through chronic illness, that you can leave a word of encouragement in the comments for those that do find this in the future and say, hey, you really aren't alone. I understand. It sucks. It really does. It really does. But there is hope. There are options. We can move forward. We can get into healing. We can get into restoration. And I'm not even there. I'm not even at the place where I can say I'm in full restoration mode, because I'm still dealing with my bacterial and viral load that just.
Yeah. And I think that's why we're such a cool dynamic, and why it's a cool dynamic to my patients, because a lot of my patients have, just been through the ringer, and then they know my story and they come to me, and it's not, everybody's different, right? Everybody's different. My journey is so different than anybody else's, but it at least provides in that moment a sense of optimism, like, whoa, you felt this way? Or like, I'll ask very specific questions about symptoms, and they're like, how do you know that? I'm like, because I went through that. That's exactly how I felt. And they're like, whoa. And here you are sitting on the other side asking me the questions, feeling good, brain feels good. And it's just, that connection is a source of hope. And so find that wherever that might be, online, in person, whoever it might be. Try to seek that out as much as you can, and create your team around you with people who lift you up and not potentially drag you down when you're having a good day, and then you get in that community and it's all just negative, and now you're down. So that's our advice. We are going to continue some cool conversations about on this front of being chronically ill. And Anna Kate mentioned a specific treatment too that we'll dive in a little bit deeper. So stay tuned for the rest of our mini-sodes. And until then, let's discover together.
We hope you've enjoyed this journey of exploration and learning as much as we have. Before you go, we have a special request for you, our beloved discoverers. We'd be thrilled if you could show your support in a few easy steps. Step 1, if you're watching on YouTube, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to ring that notification bell so you never miss a moment of discovery. Step 2, if you're listening via Apple Podcasts, please take a moment to rate and review our show. Your feedback means the world to us and helps others discover our podcast too. Step 3, whether you're on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcast platform, please share the Discovery Doc podcast with your friends, family, and social networks. It's the best way to spread the joy of discovery. And finally, don't forget to follow us on social media. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at the Discovery Doc. Stay connected with us for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and so much more. Plus, for exclusive content and additional resources, be sure to check out our website at www.thediscoverydoc.com. And while you're there, if you have a burning question or a topic you'd like us to discuss on the show, simply let us know. Thank you, Discoverers, for being part of our incredible journey. Until next time, let's discover together.
The content provided in this podcast provides general information and discussions on various topics related to health, wellness, and medical advancements. However, it is essential to understand that the content provided in this podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. The hosts, guests, and contributors are individuals sharing their personal experiences, opinions, and knowledge in their respective fields. While they strive to provide accurate, up-to-date information, medical knowledge is constantly evolving, and the information presented in this podcast may not always reflect the most current research and medical guidelines. It is crucial to consult with a qualified healthcare professional or medical expert for specific medical concerns. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay seeking medical treatment based on the information presented in this podcast. The Discovery Doc podcast encourages listeners to use their own judgment and discretion while implementing any suggestions, recommendations, or lifestyle changes discussed in this episode. Each individual's medical situation is unique and may work for one, may not be suitable or safe for another. The podcast hosts, guests, and contributors are not liable for any direct, indirect, consequential, or incidental damages or harm that may arise from listening or acting upon the information provided in this podcast. Listeners are responsible for their own health decisions and should exercise caution and seek professional guidance when necessary. By listening to this podcast, you acknowledge that you have read, understood, and agreed to this medical disclaimer. If you have any questions or concerns about this medical disclaimer, please consult a qualified healthcare professional.